Hi guys! Today we are going to dive into the postmodern design movement. I'm super excited to cover this design style with you guys today. Postmodern architecture was conceived as a critical response to the modernist architecture. In the 60s and 70s, postmodern architects became disillusioned by the austere minimalism of modernism, also then known as the international style. Where modern architects rejected the ornamentation of earlier architectural styles, postmodern architects embraced classical architecture and blended it with modern elements to create very unique structures. Postmodern buildings are characterized by playfulness, complexity, and whimsy. Let's touch on a brief history of postmodern architecture. Postmodernism came into fashion in the 60s and 70s as architects grew disenchanted by modernism. In 1966, American architect and architectural theorist Robert Venturi published a book called Complexity and Contradiction in Architecture. The book presents a rebellious manifesto against the prevailing modernist approach to architecture. It presented a compelling vision for postmodernist architects, one that celebrated classicism, color, and pop cultural references in building design. The views he expressed would lay the groundwork for an upswell in the postmodern movement. In 1972, Venturi, along with architects Denise Scott Brown and Stephen Eisenier, my apologies if I screwed that up, released a book called Learning from Las Vegas. The book explored the architecture of the Vegas Strip and its use of whimsy and fantasy, which should be a guide for future architectural styles. The postmodern movement quickly became a significant architectural style of the late 20th century. Several prominent modernists adapted the postmodern style, including Philip Johnson, Aldo Rossi, and James Sterling. Postmodernism continues to influence contemporary architecture today. So, postmodern design embraces the use of color. Often in contrast to the natural hues of building materials like sandstone or marble, postmodern architects were not shy in their use of pastels and bright neon color palettes. There's a playfulness to postmodern design. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It has elements of humor, irony, whimsy, and kitsch, which are often featured in postmodern buildings. Trompe-l'oeil was often used, a type of optical illusion designed to make a flat surface look multidimensional, also added an element of whimsy to postmodernism. There's also the use of classical motifs. Postmodern design mixes various classical architectural features like arches and pillars with modern materials like steel and glass. And you'll see a variety of materials and shapes. Postmodern architects value sculptural forms over rigid, clean lines. Many postmodern buildings feature curves and asymmetrical angles. So the big question, how do we get this look today? Today, postmodern design is enjoying a renaissance with the return of handmade items, bold patterns, and out-of-the-box approaches to decor. So some of the characteristics of a postmodern design and how you want to use this within your space is bringing in color. While the bold shapes and vibrant colors were a big part of the postmodernism in the 70s, today designers are staying away from the norm a little bit. Trying to incorporate postmodern decor in a contemporary way into your home, continue adding those bold shades, but in a muted color palette for a softer, more balanced feel. To be successful in adding visual interest to your space, you might want to consider incorporating shades that are popular in the Art Deco interiors. These colors could include mustard yellow, avocado green, burnt orange, and metallic shades. So bringing in textiles and materials into your postmodern design space. Traditionally in the 80s, they would have really used salvaged and distressed materials to create the look. This technique is still really popular today. However, you can also opt to do stuff like chunky knits and natural wood grains to add a bit of warmth and charm to the postmodern room. Lush materials like velvets and fur are also widely used in this look. The key to textiles and materials in the postmodern design is to opt for layering. So one of the most interesting features of postmodern design style is the use of shapes and lines. So they really do use a lot of asymmetry in the postmodern period. So it really gave way to some odd angles and ambiguous shapes, which are really common from this period. What's really interesting is from this period, there's a lot of really interesting light fixtures, furniture, and decorative objects. One of the things that the postmodern period really welcomed was pop cultural references in art and design. So think, Andy Warhol. When you're thinking about bringing postmodern style into your interior space, thinking about stuff like street art or urban culture is really something that you can bring into your space and really utilize to create the ambiance that you're going for. When you're thinking about the furniture pieces that you want to bring into your space, a lot of times they're thought of as irregular form, shapes, and colors, and really unique designs. Think about adding an oddly shaped or vibrantly colored coffee table that pops against perhaps a more neutral color palette, or perhaps adding accent chairs with a unique configuration. This bold difference that is created in the same space is exactly the shock and awe effect you want to create in order to execute the ultimate postmodern decor look. What's wonderful about this style is that all shapes and forms from all of the times are compatible with one another, and uncommon forms and colors are the highlight. So a really great way to increase the postmodern look in your space is by adding really interesting geometric decor elements throughout your space. When choosing rug, upholstered chairs, or pillow, you want to pay close attention to the patterns you choose. For a coherent look, try to combine simple geometric shapes with flat colors in bold, contrasting patterns. Choosing items with abstract squiggles or black and white stripes could be ideal for creating a postmodern look in your home. And honestly, no surfaces are off limits when it comes to decorating in this style, so one should not shy away from adding vivid ornamentation to walls, floors, and curtains. One thing we don't want to forget about is lighting. When designing in a postmodern decor look, you do want to try to combine several light fixtures into one space to elevate your postmodern look. One should try to focus on the mix of light fixtures that can be used together or separately for more flexibility in the space. Some of the light fixtures that can really make a statement in your space include items like glass globes, feathered fixtures, and dome-shaped pendants. So on a final note with your postmodern space, you really want to think about maximizing the joy within your space. There's this quote from an article that I read that said, "More is more and less is a bore in postmodern decor," which I thought was really cute. You really want to introduce items into your space that will amplify the depth of color and texture in a contemporary way. Invoke as much playfulness as you can muster in your space, because postmodern decor is a combination of busy patterns, odd shapes, and the more of these that there are, the better the visual texture. The goal of a successful postmodern interior is for the eye to wander around the room, picking up on something new and interesting each time it circulates. When guests are invited into your space, you want them to be intrigued by your style, as it encourages conversation and sheds light on your interests. Share your joy with others through decorations, and be sure to incorporate personal pieces in the ultimate postmodern domain. What I love about the postmodern era, it does feed into that maximalist feel. If you did enjoy that discussion around maximalism, I have a whole playlist of other maximalist videos, and one area that I didn't talk about with the postmodern decor era is the Memphis design style, but I did do a whole video on that, so you can jump on over and check that video out next. I'll include both of them here. All right, guys, until next time, bye.